citizens can also know what it is that they have been saying. There's a national partner in each country that's responsible for conducting the survey. And in Sierra Leone, this is done by the Institute for Governance Reform, which is why you have Andrew and myself doing this. Here on this map, we can see the countries by date, the dates in which countries first had AB surveys conducted. In orange is where the first set of surveys in 1999 to 2001. So we see countries such as Mali, Nigeria, Ghana. In 2002, that's in the purple color. Yellow color, we have the 2005-2006 round. You see countries like Madagascar there. Then you have the 2008-2009 in blue. It's the 2011 to 2013 survey round. And this is where Sierra Leone started. Ours was in 2012. And so on and so forth. So that map just simply shows us those different times. The AB has a nationally representative sample of adults. All respondents are randomly selected. So this is key, because the idea is that the findings of AB are reliable. So all respondents are randomly selected, and the sample is distributed across regions, states, urban, rural areas in proportion to their share in the national population. Every adult citizen has an equal chance of selection. And another component of the AB methodology is the emphasis on face-to-face interaction. I know given COVID that now we're moving to remote and to phone surveys, but with AB, one of the strengths of the AB is that to make sure that people meet with citizens directly and speak with them in the language of their preference, so that it is very easy for them to communicate their concerns and issues. There's a standard questionnaire, and this has allowed us to compare across countries as well as across time. But it is key to note that we also have country-specific questions. Given that countries have different contexts, there is opportunity to have questions in every round that reflect issues and concerns from that country. The sample size here in Sierra Leone was 1,200 adult citizens, and this, through calculation, has a plus or minus 3% error, margin of error at a 95% confidence level. And finally, the fieldwork for round 8 was conducted between 9th of March and 31st of March. So as you can see, we ended right as the first COVID case hit Sierra Leone. So we were blessed in the sense that we were able to do face-to-face and able to complete election for this round. In terms of demographics then, you can see it's 50% men, 50% women. I know some might be thinking that Sierra Leone doesn't just have 50% women. This is true. But because we know over time that surveys that women tend to be underrepresented, there is a mandate where for every male interview, we conduct a female interview. So this is what, to make sure that we have equal amounts of men and women. And then this is adjusted, the weighting is adjusted after the analysis. In terms of residents, this survey demographic reflects 56% of rural residents and 44% urban, and 37% secondary and formal education. In terms of religion, 78% are Muslim, as opposed to 22% Christian. Andrew, over to you.
Thank you very much, Fredlyn. So I will just give you a little bit of background before going into the findings proper. This is the 4th survey that Afrobarometer is conducting in Sierra Leone, as Fredlyn just said, this is the 4th iteration. So for us to compare this result across time, we know that in 2016-17, there was redistricting of Sierra Leone, which divided the northern region into 2 districts. So two regions. So you have Northwestern region and Northern region. So what you'll be seeing in this presentation, you can see all of those Northwest and Northern region grouped into one, which is the Northern region, just for it to be consistent with the results over time. So poverty levels generally in Sierra Leone are high. We will be publishing a report after today, after this presentation. The report is titled "The Ground Still Dry, Sierra Leoneans Increasingly Concerned About the Economy." So some of the discussions we'll be having here will reflect in the report afterwards. So poverty levels are high. The Statistics Sierra Leone indicates that 57% of Sierra Leoneans are poor, and out of that, 11% are extremely poor. Government of Sierra Leone actually acknowledged that the economy has been declining since the declaration of austerity by November 2016. So the new administration started putting in measures for fiscal discipline. So we actually saw the economy revamping. So the World Bank predicted at that time that the economy would grow in 2019 at 5.4%. But because of the restrictions, the COVID situation, the World Bank has again come to predict that the economy will contract from anything between 2.3% to 4%. So measures were put in place. What we'll be getting today are feedback to those measures. And in general, you realize that what citizens are saying is that those measures put in place are not reflecting on the ground. So these are the views on the economy. Broad highlights, we asked citizens whether the country is going in the wrong or right direction. It's only a third, 32% of Australians that are saying that the country is going in the right direction. So these broad findings will be discussed in detail as we go ahead. So here is the analysis over time of how Sierra Leone has fared in the last 8 years. So you can see the 2 points of interest for us in the last 8-year journey is 2015 at the height of Ebola and 2020 at the height of COVID. So you can see that these shocks actually affect the country. One may argue that even before COVID or before Ebola, there were concerns about the economy, but this is what the data says. So in terms of going in the right direction, only 32% of citizens are saying the country is going in the right direction, and 64% of them are saying not in the right direction, it's going in the wrong direction. We have an all-time low of 16% of people say the country is going in the right direction in 2015, as opposed to 32% of people saying the country is going in the right direction. So one of the patterns you will see throughout this presentation is that with the change of government came optimism. So you can see from 2015, there was some rise in 2018, where a lot of people from 16% to 45% in 2018 saying that the country is going in the right direction. We decided to subject the analysis by demographics. You can see from this that more people in urban areas, about 69%, and more people in lived poverty conditions they have more inclination to say that the country is going in the wrong direction. So Frelin will definitely take you through what we mean by living in lived poverty. But when you look at demographics, the things to remember, more people in urban areas, which is right below, 69%, more people in high lived poverty situation, 75% of them are saying that the country is going in the wrong direction. So we have regional differences. We have regional variations, of course, wide regional variations. So districts in the south and east of Sierra Leone, you can see in the green, on average, I would say 55% of them believe that the country is going in the right direction. Whereas opposition areas in the western and the northern region, it's only 14 and 16%, 16% in the western area, and 14% in the northern region that are saying that the country is going in the wrong direction, in the right direction. We have 2 levels of analysis that we did, with 2 questions that we asked. What do you think is the country's economic conditions, and what later on we return to what do you think is your own living conditions? So in terms of citizens' interpretation of the economic condition, so you see 2020 becoming an all-time high, where 84% are saying that the economy is fairly bad or very bad. Only second to that is during Ebola, 81%. So you see 2012, the country performing fairly better from the estimation of many citizens. So in terms of economic condition, when you subject that to demographics, it just mirrors what we just analyzed with people in high lived poverty saying that the country is, the economic conditions are there. And people in urban areas, again, urban poor, are more saying that the economic conditions are there. In terms of personal living conditions, again, we see an all-time high, 72% of people saying that personal living conditions are fairly bad or very bad, are either fairly bad or very bad. The only time that came close to that is 66 percentage points in 2015 in Ebola as well. When we subject that to the demographics, it shows the same pattern, with people in high living poverty and people in urban areas, the urban poor, expressing grave concern about living conditions. Now, here are the regional variations that you can see. Sierra Leone celebrated in 2018. So you can see a lot of people, when we ask the question, how do you describe present living conditions by region? So you can see that a lot of people in Sierra Leone by 2018 said, no, living conditions are better with the change of government. Now, 2 years down the road, it's plummeted. The biggest drop is reflected in the western area and the northern region, with the south and east moderately declining as well. We asked 2 questions about people's retrospective and prospective assessment of national economic conditions. So we asked the question whether, how do you compare your condition now to 12 months ago? It's only 24% of Sierra Leoneans that said that a condition is much better now or better compared to 12 months ago. But the good news is, when we ask the question in 12 months' time, how do you see your condition? A lot of people, 42%, are hopeful that conditions might be much better or better. I mean, I don't know whether some calculation of COVID came into the equation, but that question was not asked. So we saw that it's a similar trend that happened in 2015, where you had 43% of people saying economic conditions might be better. So again, it's the same in terms of regional variations. So regional variations, when you take the mauve line, region, in 2015, we had 47% that said that economic conditions in future might not improve. And it was the same in 2018. Even with the change of government, the northern region did not change. The northern region declined 2 years after the change. So we saw a steep rise in hopefulness about conditions of persons living conditions in the southern and eastern region, from 32% average to something like 84%. So there was over a 40% increase in optimism in the southern and eastern region. And of course, that optimism dropped again 2 years on by over 30% on average. So now Fredlin can take you through levels of deprivation.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. All right, so when we talk about levels of deprivation, the level of poverty index, this is actually, the lived poverty index is an experiential measure that the Afrobarometer has. And it's based on a series of survey questions that look at how frequently people actually go without a basket of basic necessities. And the basket of basic necessities that we look at specifically are food, clean water, healthcare, access to fuel, and cash income. So under lived poverty, the AB measures what citizens say about the frequency within which they have access to these different necessities. And we find that, for example, we talk about severe lived poverty. Severe lived poverty refers to the proportion of the population who go without this necessity on a frequent basis, frequent as measured by many times or always. So the first slide that I will look at is on this one, where we see that 9 in 10 citizens say that they went without a cash income at least once during the previous year. So you can see that here on over to the left, that 9 in 10 citizens say that they did not have access to cash income. Now, 43% of those are citizens that did not have access always or many times. The second is medical care. For medical care, we see that you have 8 in 10 citizens that said that they went without access to medical care. 29% of those saying that always or many times they did not have access to medical care. The third looks at food. 10 that they did not have enough food, and 6 in 8 that said that they did not have enough water during this time. And then finally, with cooking fuel, we have 14% that said they always or many times did not Sierra Leoneans reporting high-lived poverty. So 28%, which is over a quarter of Sierra Leoneans saying that they had high-lived poverty, experienced high-lived poverty during this time. And as I mentioned, high-lived poverty as saying that they went without one of these many times or always. We then had 39% of citizens that said that they experienced moderate-lived poverty. Only 6% citizens said did not experience lived poverty. So we can see that when it comes to the lived poverty index, citizens' experiential assessments of poverty, that this is very high. We see that it has gone up over time. In 2018, you have 48% of respondents that said that they experienced low-lived or no-lived poverty, compared to 52% that said they experienced moderate or high-lived poverty. And then this has gone up in 2020, it was 33%, and now in 2020, it's 67%, so quite a jump in the number of citizens reporting experiencing high-lived poverty. When you look at this by demographic group, I think what is striking in this are 2 areas I want to put your attention to. The first is the rural-urban divide, and Andrew alluded to this earlier. We see that lived poverty, high-lived poverty is experienced more by respondents in rural areas. And we also see that the more educated citizens are, the more that the lived poverty actually decreases. So there's a relationship between education and your experience of lived poverty, with more educated citizens responding less lived poverty than those who have no formal education, primary education. And you can see as it goes up, it goes down rather, the higher you go in terms of your education accomplishments. So I'll turn it over to Andrew now to talk about government economic performance.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Fredlin. We are not doing on time presentation. We will be doing this assessment of government performance. It's how they feel, how they see things, but now it's really about how they view what government is doing. You can see later on that the economy ranked 6th among the most important citizens face. But even though there has been many reforms put in place, and we've seen a lot of donor inputs in governments of Sierra Leone's budget support process. But it's not translating into citizens' welfare and living standards in citizens' ranking of the most important problems. For approval rating, you can see the bottom red.